Ed Sullivan stood in his office at CBS, staring at a demo tape that had arrived with a note that made his heart race with both excitement and concern. It was September 15, 1972, and 14-year-old Michael Jackson had personally sent Ed a recording of his solo version of Ben, along with a handwritten letter that read, "Mr. Sullivan, I want to perform alone on your show. Not with my brothers. Just me. I know everyone thinks I'm too young to be a solo artist, but I need to prove that I'm more than just the cute kid from the Jackson 5. Please give me this chance." Ed realized he was being asked to facilitate one of the most risky career moves in entertainment history. A child attempting to break away from the most successful group in the world to prove he could carry a television performance entirely on his own. Before you hear this incredible story, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to witness is how Ed Sullivan helped launch the solo career of the greatest entertainer who ever lived. To understand why Michael Jackson's request for a solo performance was so shocking and potentially career-destroying, you need to understand what the Jackson 5 represented in 1972 and how unprecedented it was for any member, especially a 14-year-old child, to attempt a solo career while still part of the most successful group in the world. The Jackson 5 weren't just another successful singing group. They were a cultural phenomenon that had revolutionized popular music, broken down racial barriers, and become the biggest entertainment story of the early 1970s. Michael had been the lead singer and undeniable focal point of the Jackson 5 since their legendary Sullivan Show debut in December 1969, when he was just 11 years old and had captivated America with his precocious talent and infectious energy. That performance had launched them to unprecedented superstardom, with hits like "I Want You Back," ABC, "The Love You Save," and "I'll Be There," making them the first group since the Beatles to have their first 4 singles reach #1 on the Billboard charts. The success had been so overwhelming that it had transformed not just the Jackson family's lives, but also the entire landscape of popular music. Michael's combination of vocal ability, natural charisma, and dancing skills had made him the most famous child performer in the world. But it had also created enormous pressure and expectations that were becoming increasingly difficult to manage. But by 1972, as Michael was approaching his 15th birthday, he was beginning to feel artistically constrained by the group dynamic, and increasingly eager to explore his individual artistic potential beyond the carefully controlled Jackson 5 format. He had been developing his own unique style and vocal abilities, working privately with coaches and mentors, and he felt ready to step out from behind the protection and safety of his brothers to prove that he could succeed as a solo performer. Michael's desire for solo recognition wasn't driven by ego or sibling rivalry, but by a genuine artistic need to express aspects of his personality and talent that didn't fit within the Jackson 5's upbeat, family-friendly image. He was drawn to more sophisticated material that would allow him to showcase his growing emotional depth and vocal control, songs that were more complex and challenging than the pop confections that had made the group famous. Michael is different from his brothers in ways that go beyond just being the lead singer. Ed had observed to his wife Sylvia after the Jackson 5's most recent Sullivan Show appearance in early 1972. When he performs with the group, he's magnetic and commands attention naturally. But when I watch him during rehearsals and see how he interacts with the material, I can see that he has something extra naturalness, a natural star quality that goes beyond just being a good singer. He might be ready for something bigger than the Jackson 5 format can offer him. But Ed was also acutely aware of the enormous risks involved in Michael's unprecedented request for solo television exposure. Child stars who attempted solo careers often failed spectacularly, unable to handle the pressure of carrying performances entirely on their own, and breaking away from a successful group format could potentially destroy both Michael's individual career prospects and the Jackson 5's continued commercial success. The entertainment industry was littered with cautionary tales of young performers who had tried to transition from group success to solo careers, and had discovered that their appeal was dependent on the group dynamic rather than their individual talents. The risks were even greater for someone as young as Michael, who would be attempting something that had never been successfully accomplished by a performer his age. The pressure from Motown Records and the Jackson family had been intense and sustained when word leaked about Michael's desire for solo television appearances. Berry Gordy and Diana Ross, who had been instrumental in launching the Jackson 5's career and had invested enormous resources in their success, were deeply concerned that solo exposure might damage the group's carefully crafted image and threaten their continued commercial viability. Michael is being unrealistic about his individual prospects. Berry Gordy had told Ed during a tense and emotional phone conversation. He's 14 years old and he's part of the most successful group in the world. Why would he want to risk that for the uncertainty of a solo career that might not work? The Jackson 5 format works because the brothers complement each other and create a dynamic that's bigger than any individual member. Michael alone might not be enough to carry a full performance. Joseph Jackson, Michael's father and the group's manager, had been even more resistant to the idea of solo appearances, viewing them as a threat to the family business that he had worked so hard to build. Michael needs to focus on the group and stop thinking about himself as separate from his brothers, Joseph had argued during a heated meeting at CBS. The Jackson 5 is a family business, and Michael going solo could destroy everything we've built together. He's too young to understand the risks he's taking. But Michael had been quietly and systematically preparing for this opportunity for months, working with private vocal coaches and choreographers to develop material that would showcase his individual talents rather than his ability to blend with his brothers. He had been studying solo performers, analyzing their techniques, and developing his own artistic vision that was distinct from the Jackson 5's established style. When Ed finally agreed to meet with Michael privately to discuss the solo performance request, he was immediately struck by the young man's remarkable maturity and unwavering determination. Despite being only 14, Michael spoke about his career with the focus, intensity, and professional insight of someone much older and more experienced. "Mr. Sullivan," Michael said during their private meeting in Ed's office, "I love performing with my brothers, and I'll always be grateful for everything the Jackson 5 has given me. But I feel like I have something to say as an individual artist that I can't express within the group format. Ben is a song that means something very special to me, and I want to perform it in a way that shows people who I really am as a person and as an artist, not just who I am as part of the Jackson 5. Ed had listened to Michael's demo recording of Berry Gordy Bolsa Rec the Falls, the haunting theme song from a horror movie about a boy's friendship with a rat, and had been amazed by the emotional depth, vocal control, and interpretive sophistication that Michael brought to the unusual material. The song was completely different from the upbeat, dance-oriented material that had made the Jackson 5 famous, and Michael's interpretation revealed a more sensitive, introspective, and artistically ambitious side of his developing artistry. "Michael, I have to ask you something honestly," Ed said, leaning forward in his chair and speaking with the seriousness of someone who understood the magnitude of what was being discussed. "Are you absolutely sure you're ready for the pressure of carrying a television performance entirely by yourself? Performing solo is completely different from performing with a group. There's nowhere to hide, no brothers to help if something goes wrong, and if the performance doesn't work, you'll be out there alone with nowhere to turn." Michael's response revealed both his quiet confidence and his sophisticated understanding of exactly what he was attempting to accomplish. "Mr. Sullivan, I've been performing since I was 5 years old. I've never been afraid of being on stage, and I'm not afraid of being alone up there. I want people to see me as Michael Jackson the artist, not just as the lead singer of the Jackson 5. I know it's risky, but I also know that I'm ready for this challenge." Ed made the decision to give Michael the solo slot, but with conditions designed to protect both Michael and the show. The performance would be limited to one song. Michael would have a full rehearsal with Ed's production team, and there would be backup plans in case the solo format didn't work. The September 30th, 1972 taping was unlike anything Ed had ever experienced with a teenage performer. Michael arrived at CBS completely prepared and focused, bringing sheet music, choreography notes, and a clear vision for how he wanted the performance to look and feel. During rehearsals, Michael demonstrated a level of professionalism and artistic control that was remarkable for someone his age. He worked with the lighting technicians to create the right mood, collaborated with the camera operators to find the most effective angles, and made subtle adjustments to his vocal performance until every detail was perfect. This kid knows exactly what he wants. Ed's musical director observed after watching Michael's rehearsal. He's not just singing a song, he's creating a complete artistic statement. I've worked with performers twice his age, who don't have this kind of vision and control. When the cameras rolled for the actual performance, Michael delivered one of the most memorable solo debuts in television history. His version of Ben was hauntingly beautiful, showcasing not only his extraordinary vocal abilities, but also his natural instinct for connecting emotionally with audiences. Ed introduced Michael with unusual seriousness, seeming to understand the significance of what was about to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, performing as a solo artist for the first time, here is Michael Jackson singing Ben. Michael took the stage wearing a simple outfit that emphasized his youth, while also suggesting his evolution toward a more mature artistic identity. As he began singing, it became immediately clear that something special was happening. The performance was intimate and powerful, with Michael using the entire stage space and connecting directly with the camera in ways that created an almost personal relationship with each viewer. His voice carried emotional weight that seemed impossible for someone his age, and his stage presence commanded attention without any of the flashy choreography that characterized Jackson 5 performances. When Michael finished Ben, the studio audience erupted in applause that was both enthusiastic and respectful. They had witnessed something extraordinary, the birth of a solo superstar. After the performance, Michael sought out Ed immediately. "Mr. Sullivan, thank you for believing in me and giving me this chance. I know it was a risk for both of us." Ed shook Michael's hand with genuine admiration. "Michael, what you did out there tonight was remarkable. You didn't just sing a song, you showed America that you're ready to be a star on your own terms. That takes extraordinary talent and courage." The response to Michael's solo Sullivan Show performance was immediate and overwhelming. Ben shot to #1 on the Billboard charts, becoming Michael's first solo hit and proving that he could succeed independently of the Jackson 5. More importantly, the performance established Michael as a legitimate solo artist in the minds of both industry professionals and the public. It demonstrated that his talent was not dependent on the group format and that he had the charisma and artistic vision to carry performances entirely on his own. Michael's Sullivan Show solo debut was the moment when everyone realized we were looking at the future king of pop, or recalled Berry Gordy years later. That performance showed that Michael wasn't just talented, he was special in ways that transcended normal categories of entertainment. Ed Sullivan's decision to give Michael a solo platform became one of the most important moments in popular music history, representing the launching pad for a solo career that would eventually make Michael Jackson the biggest entertainment superstar in the world. The performance also marked the beginning of Michael's evolution from child star to adult artist, a transition that would culminate in albums like Thriller and Bad that redefined popular music and entertainment. That night on The Ed Sullivan Show, I learned that I could trust my own artistic instincts and that audiences would respond to authenticity and emotion even from someone my age. Michael reflected years later. "Mr. Sullivan gave me the confidence to believe in myself as a solo artist." Ed's support for Michael's solo ambitions represented his continued ability to recognize and nurture extraordinary talent, even when that meant taking risks with unproven artistic directions. The legacy of Michael's solo Sullivan Show debut extends beyond entertainment history to broader questions about artistic development and the importance of giving young performers opportunities to explore their individual potential. If this story of artistic courage and career transformation moved you, hit that subscribe button and tell us, have you ever taken a risk to prove your individual worth? Sometimes the most important thing a young artist can do is step out from the safety of a group to discover what they're capable of achieving on their own.